everybody, this is Sojana Yu doing my after preaching sermon video. So today was a unique day because for the first time ever in my life I preached back to back, so at two different churches. And so I was debating when I ended up being scheduled on the same day, which I didn't want to do, but I was convinced to go ahead and do it. And so I was thinking I should do two different sermons because it's just the right thing to do. Well, I didn't. I did the same sermon twice, but adjusted it for the audience. So I did adjust my sermon that I gave at Impact Temple. I adjusted it so that I could, my brother's here. I'm picking him up for lunch. All right, I'll have to continue this later. Bye. Hi, Sojana here, continuing my after preaching sermon video. So I did adjust the sermon that I preached at my home church to fit the time and the audience. I did modify the sermon, and they're both, I think they're both were recorded, so I'll put it on the same blog link. But if you're interested, you can watch the differences between the two. But I think the fullest overall sermon would be at Impact. The first one that I gave today, and the other one was, like I said, adjusted. Okay, here are my sermon. Here's my sermon tip, preaching tip. Well, I will say I found it super duper hard it's always hard for me to come up with a particular sermon topic and idea. The things that I find that I tend to wrestle with, even though I've been preaching a lot, especially lately, meaning this year. But this year, the end of last year, preaching a lot. What I notice is hard for me is when when the sermon text or the topic is not known, like where I have freedom to choose whatever I want or whatever fits the occasion or whatever fits, when there's no sermon series and it's sort of open. Those are the most hard. Those are the hardest for me to sort of just pin down. What is it that what am I saying? What am I doing? What is this for? Who is this for? What am I trying to leave people with? Have them feel, have them ponder. What is the question? Those things are very hard for me to do when I have kind of nothing to go off of. Well, I have something. Both church contexts I've gotten to know. In fact, the Lord's Church Waco, I think that church, we actually had a meeting last week, and I was able to talk on Zoom with the pastor was on, the main pastor was on, the deacon in charge of the English ministry service, young college adult English ministry service was on and talking. And then we had two small group leaders and I think another deacon. So they, per my request, remember my last preaching tip? I think the last time I preached at for that church, I did say that I missed, I wanted to be able to know them a little more. And so I did put that out in a text message to Deacon Kim, and he responded back with the opportunity to Zoom with them about that, to be able to hear and ask them questions about, tell me about your group, tell me about what draws people to come, or what tell me the things that I don't know about your community, because I don't want to just talk at people. I want to talk with people and about things that they care about. So I expected that Deacon Kim was going to have that among themselves and then come back to me with, we've had these findings, but actually that's not what happened. He invited all of us to a Zoom call, and he coordinated the time. He got everybody there. And then I just shared, my hope for the meeting, and asked questions and heard what they had to say. And it was wonderful and quite an experience. And so so because of that, I feel like I know them a little more. And I was reminded of the things that I thought about when I was younger, much younger. Much younger meaning I'm like in my 40s now. So like half, like, wow. But there were things that were really heavy on my mind at that time. And even now still remain. There's some concerns and wonderings I have and hopes that I have, that even now I still bring to the Lord, and they still wrestle with themselves because, they want to make the right choices and make the right steps to move forward in life and make the most out of their life. I get it. I do. I feel like I get it. But anyway, so that's what's hard for me. How did I get out of that? Continued prayer, knowing that if I don't get this together, I'm going to have a hard, it's gonna be tough. Like, I don't want to just bring this out of nowhere, out of thin air. I don't want to, God, I need you to show up. Basically, actually, that was my prayer to God. God, I don't know what you want me to say to these churches. You need to tell me what it is you want me to say. I thought I have I think 21 pages of stuff, just typing, writing, thinking, editing. I have a lot of stuff, but by the time it was time to preach, I felt like it was ready. And I feel like the delivery of both sermons was good. And in my home church, I could see the nods off some of the things that I was sharing and saying. I could see it. In the other church, I could see sleepy people. These exams, final exams, it's project time. It's the end of the semester. And actually, it was I could see it in their faces. And so in my just prayer to them and pastoring of them and sort of just exhorting words of encouragement, and trying to share wisdom that, hey, I know you're aiming for something. We all are in some ways, many ways, and be open to these unexpected surprises that may come your way, such as me even being here. Totally unexpected surprise. And so I wanted to just share things with them, knowing in my mind what I didn't say was, no, none of us are promised that we will be back in the next semester, right? That's the hope and intention, but it may not happen. I didn't say these things, but it was in my mind like, hey, we don't know the full plan or grand scheme. We don't know. So what can we do? We can show up now as best as we can. And that's what I did through my time with these different communities and even with my brother, as I shared, and my family. So if I had to boil all that down to a preaching tip, it would be kind of like, know yourself, know the things that you struggle with as a pastor. I struggle with not knowing where we are in the sermon series, or if this is a one-off thing, how does this fit in the whole of what's happening? Let's not neglect the reality of our life right now. And actually, that's what my sermon was about. It was a different stories that highlighted hope and prayer, that we would gain wisdom, and see the work of God in our lives in a variety of ways. And so I used a few different examples to sort of show that. And I paired it with contemplative questions with a pause, so that people might have a moment to even consider, what might God be prompting us in? So, don't really normally see that in a sermon, but that I've seen. I haven't really seen that, but I, in all of my wrestlings of figuring out how I was going to do this, that is what felt right for this Sunday and for me. I think it was my pastor who, in talking with him this week, he shared something with me that stuck with me, and I think that also helped as well, which I didn't say to anybody, but I'm going to say it here now because it's something I hope to remember and something that might be helpful to you. I did ask him if he thought I'd be a good pastor, if he thought that I could be a good pastor. And I saw a look of surprise on his face. I don't know if that's what it was. That's what I feel. I don't know. Maybe he'll see this and correct me. But it sort of seemed like, you're asking me this? But he didn't say those words. But he did respond. And one of the things he said, which really stuck out to me, was he said, I think you'll make a great pastor, but you'll be a different pastor than me. You'll be one with a calendar. I laughed. That is hilarious because you doggone right. I will have a calendar. But that stuck in my head. It was just like, wow, yeah. I don't have to look like him or do the things, try to do things the way that he does them. He never even told me that anyway. I don't know where I got that from, but maybe in an effort to try and fit in places or try to see what's happening for folks, what are folks used to. I'll try to be something like that. But so that also helped me to just be me. And if me means asking questions, giving pauses, talking about the world and nature, then that's what it is. And that's what happened today. And it was good for me to do. I did have to leave right after I preached, though, to go to the other service. So unfortunately, I didn't get to hear anybody's responses to that. But I did what I needed to do. And I'm hopeful that it stuck with others. Something stuck. Some question, something. Some image, some word, some feeling. Not just because of me, but because of all the things and all the ways that God works. We are preaching. I'm working on my preaching. I want to be a better preacher, but not just a better preacher, but a better pastor. Oh, this is something else. So at that church in Waco, I ran into the pastor of the church when I got there. I was hoping to get there early enough to have a meal with them for the first and last time, but it didn't work out. But I got there and then I ran, and I just so happened the pastor saw me in the hallway and he came over and said hello, asked me what I thought about that Zoom meeting where we gained feedback. I said I thought it was great, and then he shared some things from his culture and background. It was like, you work on, if you're a pastor, it was like he was explaining that there's a difference between preaching and pastoring. And some people think that if you are a preacher, then you don't need to get feedback from other people about whatever. Like you hear from the Lord and then you preach. There's no this feedback stuff and talking to the people and listening and hearing what they think or hearing what they have to say about what, like, that's pastoring. Basically, that's kind of what he was sharing, and his opinion was that I did both. And I was like, wow, what an affirmation from this pastor who found me online. I didn't even know about this church beforehand. I still remember how he sent me an Instagram message. Who knew that we'd be here? I just am amazed at the things that God has done. Me being at Impact Temple, I was longing for a church home. And I still remember, receiving that email in June last year asking if I wanted to preach as a part of, he was inviting guest preachers in for the summer for a preaching series on encounters with Jesus. Would I be interested? Heck yeah, and I'm still there and serving. It's just unexpected ways, longings, hopes that God would see me and use me and make a way, and He has. I have been praying about specific things and other things in other areas and other ways, and some of those things have also moved unexpectedly, and some of those things nothing much has happened. so it's like I can't control any of this. I can only respond to the opportunities that I'm given, and thank God for each one of them because they're precious to me, and opportunities that I don't take lightly. Because I never thought that I would be here. This is a privilege. And so, pastor, preacher, the opportunity that you get to be in front of others, to give them a prepared word, to show them your life, to be with them, to exhort them in the words of God, and in the actions of God. This is quite wonderful. I was going to say remarkable. And remarkable. Okay, well, those are some of my thoughts after preaching today in both services, both churches. And now I'm pretty tired. So I am going to go clean up all of these dishes, because when I was on my way home, I texted my family. I was like, I am so hungry. I thought I was going to get to eat. It didn't work out. I had opportunities to eat now. Both churches had food. I thought I was going to eat. It did not work out. So me hungry. I was hungry. So I told my family, when I came home with my brother, after picking up my brother, I saw my husband scraping carrots because the plan was to have kimbap, homemade kimbap. And so I quickly banged on my son's door, like, why aren't you not making the food? Why is your dad doing it? He's like, you didn't tell me what time. So suddenly mom comes home, lots of activity. We eat well, and then we play a game that most people did not want to play, but they actually, I think, enjoyed. Even my brother could see that. And I just dropped him off, and that's life. So grateful. There's so many things I'm grateful for. Okay, well, I think I talked a whole lot today. Maybe it's to make up the 2 after preaching sermons into 1. All right, okay. All right, you guys. Bye-bye.